Hello children, today I am here with a new video of Business Studies Chapter 5 Organizing. So let us understand what is the meaning of organizing and what are the various types of organizing, and also we will discuss about delegation and decentralization. So let us start with the meaning of organizing. So organizing, it is actually one of the very important function of management, or we can say it is the second important function of management, which leads to the creation of an organizational structure which includes the designing of roles to be filled by suitably skilled people, and defining the interrelationship between these roles so that ambiguity in the performance of duty can be eliminated. And the aim of organizing is to enable people to work together for a common purpose, or in other words we can say organizing refers to assembling of all the types of resources, whether it is physical, financial or human resources, and bringing them together in order and to establish a very healthy or good relationship between these various resources. Use these resources in order to achieve the organizational objective. So this is the meaning of organizing. So as it is, we will discuss about the organizational structure also, because that is the main focus of organizing, to design such an organizational structure, and in this we will fill the organization used to fill the suitable people. Suitable means those who are skilled for a particular job will occupy a particular job position in the organization, so that there is no confusion in the organization. Now we are going to discuss the process of organizing. What are the steps included in the process of organizing? The first step in organizing process is identification and division of work. So the first step in process of organizing involves identifying and division of work. It means the whole work what is to be performed in the organization is identified, and this work, that whole work is divided into smaller units, and these smaller units are given to the employees, and these smaller units actually we call them as the jobs. These jobs are assigned to the individuals or the employees who are skilled or capable in performing that particular job. So that is the first step, to identify the work and to divide it among the employees or the people who are skilled to perform that particular job. Second step, it is departmentation. As we in the previous step we have identified and divided the works, means the work which are of similar nature, they are grouped together, and that group is known as departmentation. For example, in an organization there can be some activities, number of activities regarding production. So all these similar activities will be grouped together, and that department will be named as production department. The same way, there may be number of sales activities in an organization. These sales activities are grouped together, and another department is formed, that is called sales department. So this process we call it as the departmentation. Means the activities which are similar in nature, or the jobs which are related, they are grouped together, and that group is known as departmentation. Next, assignment of duties. After doing the first two steps, that is identification and division of work and departmentation, the jobs which we have identified, or the jobs which are created under the different departments, similar jobs, they are assigned to the people who are qualified to perform that particular job. So different people, those who are qualified for different type of job, accordingly they are assigned the duties or the jobs. Next, it is establishing reporting relationship. When the jobs are assigned, the people come to know that who is at the higher level of authority and who is at the lower level of authority. It means who will give the orders and who will receive the orders. So that reporting relationship is established in the organization. Superiors used to give the orders, and those who are working below them are called subordinates, and they used to receive the orders. Now let us talk about the importance of organizing, why it is important in an organization. First, benefits of specialization. So organizing leads to a systematic allocation of job, that already we have discussed in the process, that a person who is skilled in a particular job will be assigned a particular job. So systematic allocation of job among the workforce. Workforce means the employees, those who are working in the organization. Second point, the division of work into smaller job reduces workload and enhances productivity, and repetitive performance leads to specialization. So when a particular person is doing the same kind of job again and again, his level of performance will improve, or we can say he will become specialized in his particular job. Second, clarity in working relationship, because in organizing process or that structure is created. So from that structure it is very clear that who is the superior and who is the subordinate, who will issue the orders, who will receive the order. So in the organization, the people or the employees, they come to know about what role they have to play in the organization, who has to act as the superior and who has to act as the subordinates. So all the employees, they are very clear with what is their working relationship in the organization. Optimum utilization of the resources. When the jobs are assigned, or we can say when the jobs are divided into smaller units and assigned to the people according to their skill and qualification, there is no chance of duplication of the work, and there is minimum wastage of the resources. This leads to the optimum utilization of all the types of resources, whether it is physical resource, financial resource, or the human resource. Next point is effective administration. Administration also improves since there is no confusion among the employees. All the people are very clearly described about their job and their duties, and also there is no confusion and any duplicacy of the work. So this leads to effective administration in the organization. Adaptation to change. Now since different departments are there, so if any kind of change is required in a particular department, it can be done without affecting the other departments of the organization. So it is mentioned here in another way, the process of organizing is flexible, which allows a business enterprise to accommodate changes in the business environment. So a particular type of environment, the changes can be brought in a particular department where the changes are required without affecting the other departments of the organization. Development of personnel means when the jobs are assigned according to the skill and the same job is being done by an employee again and again, it helps in the development of that personnel or the employee. So next it is expansion and growth. So when there is development of the personnel, when there is optimum utilization of the resources, and when the productivity improves, naturally that organization is going to expand its business and the organization is to grow. Now we are going to talk about the organizational structure. First of all, in very short, let me tell you what is the meaning of organizational structure in one sentence. Organizational structure is a network of job position created in an organization. So again, it can be defined as a framework within which managerial and operating tasks are performed. It specifies the relationship between people, work and resources in an organization. And under this organizational structure, various posts are created to perform different activities for the attainment of some predetermined objective of the organization. Now here one very important thing, it is span of management. Span of management refers to the number of employee which could be effectively managed by a manager, or we can say it refers to the number of subordinates that can be effectively managed by a superior. And this span of management depends on number of factors. Let me tell you one or two factors. First, it depends on the potential of the manager. If the manager is intelligent, more capable, he can manage more number of people. And if the manager is not so intelligent, not having that potential, incapable, then his span of management would be short. Now, under this organizational structure, there are two types of structure. One, it is functional structure, and second, it is divisional structure. So in functional structure, the various activities or this structure is created on the basis of activities or the functions to be performed, or we can say the departments are made according to the nature of functions to be performed in the organization. So in this structure, activities are grouped and departments are created on the basis of a specific function to be performed. For example, let us suppose there are three important functions to be performed in an organization. Purchase function, or the purchase activities are there, then production activities are there, and sales activities are there. So when we create the structure, keeping in mind these three activities, three different departments will be created: purchase department, production department, and sales department. So here this structure we are creating on the basis of activity or the job, or we can say the function to be performed in the organization. So this structure is called functional structure. There are some advantages as well as disadvantages. Few advantages I am going to read for you. It leads to occupational specialization. It means an employee become expert in performing a particular function or an activity, or he become experts in his particular job. Then promotes efficiency in utilization of manpower. So proper manpower is utilized properly. There is no wastage of human resources. Promotes control and coordination within a department. So within a particular department, for example, within a production department, there will be proper control and coordination among the various activities or the functions which are there within the production department. Then it reduces duplication of work, since the employees are very clear that what they have to perform being in a particular job and in a particular department. So there is less chance of duplication of work. And it helps in training employees easily, because employees are to be trained in a specific job only. It ensures the different functions get due attention. So it not only focuses on its own function, but it helps in the coordination of other functions as well. Now some disadvantages are discussed here. Sometimes it happens that the departmental head, they only focuses on their department and forgets about the overall objective of the organization. Now lack of coordination among different departments. Again, this can happen when the departmental head, they only focuses, or they are only concerned about their department performance, and they do not coordinate and cooperate with the other departments. So there is chance of lack in coordination. Conflict of interest will arise within different departments. It can be, this conflict can be on allocation of resources. Sometimes some department may get more resources as compared to the other one, and there can be the chance of conflict. It may lead to inflexibility due to narrow perspective of employees. So sometimes when the employees, they are having the narrow perspective, then sometimes in order to bring some changes in the organization, it may be little difficult. Now let us talk about the divisional structure. So this structure is adopted by the organizations dealing in multiple line of product, or we can say when an organization produces more than one line of product, they adopt this divisional structure. So in this structure, the departmentation is not on the basis of function or the activities or the jobs, rather it is on the basis of different types of products being produced by the organization. So here it is given like cosmetics, garments, footwear and skin care. So these are the different types of products being produced by the organization. So when the departmentation is done on the basis of products, then that is known as divisional organizational structure. Now under divisional organizational structure, again we can find out the functional structure. So functional structure can be found within a divisional organizational structure. Now here you can see the departments on the basis of, under garments you can see there are some more departments made which are on the basis of a specific function. Human resource, that is a specific function. Marketing, a specific function. Research and development, a specific function. Purchasing, a specific function. So here this various departments which we see under garments, they resemble functional structure, and above it, under managing director, the different departments which we see like cosmetic, garments, footwear and skin care, this resembles divisional structure. Now let us talk about some advantages and disadvantages of divisional structure. Product specialization. Here employee is not getting specialization in a particular function, rather they get expert in a particular product, because in divisional structure the departmentation is done on the product line. Now it helps in fixation of responsibility and accountability. In divisional structure, every department which is based on a particular product, they are separate from the other department, so they do not coordinate with one another, which was there in case of functional structure. In functional, purchase, production and sales, three departments we took as an example. So production department, it was dependent on purchase, and sales department was dependent on production department. So there the coordination was required, and in such a case it was difficult to fix which department is responsible for non-achievement of the objective, because they were interdependent on one another. But in case of divisional structure, since departmentation is on the basis of different products and these products are not interdependent, so it is easy to fix the responsibility and make a particular department accountable for non-completion of the or non-achievement of the objective. Provides a proper basis for assessing performance and result of each department. Since the departments are separate, it is easy to measure the performance of each and every department. It facilitates expansion and growth, because in divisional structure the organization can add more line of product according to their requirement. So easily this organization can be expanded. Now some disadvantages let us talk about. Conflict on this allocation of resources. Here again the different departments which are based on product, they can have conflict on allocation of resources. For example, suppose the garment department gets more budget, cash budget as compared to that of the skin care department, so there can be the possibility of conflict between these two departments. It may lead to increase in the cost, since there may be duplication of activities in different product division. So how this cost can increase, let me tell you. Because for every product line, number of machines are required, different types of employees are required, different type of market research has to be done. So all this will increase the cost of the organization. then it provides managers with the authority to supervise all activities related to particular division. So the departmental head of cosmetics, he will get all the power to take decision about all the activities which are being performed in that particular department. So many times this manager can misuse his power. Now we have talked about the structure. Now in an organization there can be two types of organization. One, it is formal organization, and another it is informal organization. So let us understand what is formal organization. It is an organization which is created deliberately in order to carry on the various activities or to achieve the objective of the organization. It is created intentionally in a planned way. So let me read for you. This structure is designed by management to accomplish organizational goal. So in formal organization, the boundaries of authority, responsibility is clearly defined, and there is systematic coordination among the various activities to achieve organizational objective. Some of the features are given. It clearly defines the line of authority and responsibility for every individual in an organization. It means the authority and responsibility of each and every employee is made very clear. Second feature, it is a means to achieve the objective specified in the plan. Through formal organization only the objective of organization can be achieved, because here only job related communication takes place. It is impersonal and does not consider emotional aspects of the employees. In formal organization, the discussion is only about work. There is no scope for any discussion regarding psychological satisfaction or any social matter. The people talk only about their work, their responsibilities, their authorities in order to achieve the organizational goal. And it is designed by the top level management. This is, as we discussed, that this type of organization, formal organization, is deliberately designed, and it is designed by the top level management. It is created with the motive of achieving organizational objectives. So that is very clear. Now some of the advantages: easier to fix responsibility. Here the responsibility of each and every employee can be fixed, because here every information passes in a formal way. It means systematically the information flows from top to bottom. It helps to avoid duplication of work. All the employees are assigned a particular type of job, keeping in mind their skills and qualifications, so there is no chance of duplication of work. Unity of command is maintained. Here there is no friendly relation. An employee or a subordinate receives order from his immediate superior only. So there is no chance that an employee will get multiple orders from different bosses. For an employee there is one for an employee there is one superior or the boss in the organization. Next advantage is that whatever objective and goals are set by the organization, they are achieved in time. That is effective accomplishment of goal. Provide stability in the organization. So organization keeps on working or carrying on its activities very smoothly without any chaos and confusion. Some disadvantages are: may lead to procedural delay, as chain of command has to be followed. Sometimes, because in this type of organization, chain of command has to be followed. It means message has, or the information has to pass through each and every key person in the organization. So many times there is delay in taking the decision. Rigid policies reduces creativity. So there is means people are not allowed to give their own opinion. So whatever policies or plans are framed in the organization, once they are rigidly followed by the people, so there is less chance of coming up with more creative ideas. More emphasis is on structure and work than on human relation. So there is no scope for any psychological satisfaction. Only the importance is given to work related activities or official matters. Now let us talk about informal organization. So we know that when in formal organization people work together, they come and interact with one another, and this interaction of people give rise to a network of social relationship, and that social relationship we can call it as the informal organization. So this informal organization grows within formal organization automatically. This type of organization is not created intentionally or deliberately. It is created automatically, because when employees when they are working in the formal organization doing their job, they interact with one another and they become friends. So one social relationship is established between them, through which they satisfy their psychological needs, the need of this belongingness, the need of care, the need of emotions. All these things are being fulfilled here. So such type of organization we call it as the informal organization. Some features are it is created due to interaction of the people within the organization, and the standard of behavior evolves from this group norms. So how the people are actually in behavior, that can be known through this informal organization. And next feature, that it does not follow any scalar chain to pass the message. The message can be spread in any direction, it can move in any direction, there is no fixed channel of communication. Then it emerges spontaneously, it means it is created automatically and it is not created deliberately by the management. And it is a complex network of social relationship between people. Some advantages: information can be passed very quickly, very fast, so it leads to faster spread of information. Then it enhances job satisfaction, because people will feel happy being in a particular job because they are able to satisfy their psychological needs through this type of organization. Then it provides quick solution to the problems. Many problems or the many decisions which take for which long chain has to be followed, such decisions can be taken very quickly through this informal organization, because it does not follow any formal this chain or the scalar chain. Some disadvantages: it spreads rumors. Sometimes a wrong message or information can be spread in the organization. Then this type of organization, it does not it resists change, means the people many times when they come in groups become means they are in a social group, many times they stand against the management. So it many times it resists changes which are to be brought into the organization. Then members of the group may give more priority to group interest over the organizational objectives. Because of this structure, many times the employees, they forget about the overall objective of organization and they focus more on their individual interest. Next very important term, it is delegation, and it is very important because delegation refers to passing of the authority and responsibility by a superior to his immediate subordinate. This authority and responsibility, they are multiplied with 2, or multiplied among 2, or distributed among 2 people. So let me read out the definition, and before that let me tell you, it is very important for the success of any organization. It is a deliberate we can say it is a deliberate concept which has to be adopted in every organization. Without delegation, we can never think of achieving the objective of any organization. So delegation of authority merely means granting of authority to subordinate to operate within prescribed limits, and delegation always flows from top to bottom. Direction is downward. Some of the there are three important elements of delegation: authority, responsibility, and accountability. So authority refers to the power to take decisions. So whenever manager delegates his authority to his immediate subordinate, so he can delegate authority to the immediate subordinate. So authority can be delegated, means the power to take decision can be totally delegated. Second, it is responsibility. Next important element is responsibility. Responsibility refers to the obligation to complete the assigned task on time, in the prescribed given time. So responsibility also can be delegated, but partially. It means if the organization fails to achieve its objective, then the superior and the subordinate both will be responsible for non-achievement of the objective. And the third element, it is accountable. It refers to that who will be answerable for the non-completion of the job. So accountability can never be delegated. For example, in case if the objective of organization is not achieved, then superior cannot make subordinate answerable for non-completion of the task or the job. Superior will be responsible for, should be accountable for non-completion, or superior will be answerable for the non-completion of the job or the task. Importance of delegation. First point, it reduces the workload of the managers, because manager will pass his responsibility and authority to his immediate subordinate, and he can focus on some important issues rather than on the daily routine activities. Employee development. Here the subordinate gets chance to take important decisions, and they can develop, or they can be the future managers. Quick and better decisions are possible. The subordinates are granted sufficient amount of authority, so they need not go to their superior for taking decision concerning the routine matters. So the decisions are very quick, and most of the time these decisions are very good. High morale of the subordinates. So this delegation of authority and responsibility, it boosts up the morale of the subordinates. They develop a sense of belongingness in the organization. They feel so happy that their superior has some confidence on them, so they are passing their authority and responsibility to them. Better coordination. So the coordination in the organization is also very good, because these three elements, that is authority, responsibility, and accountability, they help to define the power, duties, and answerability related to various job positions, and which result in developing and maintaining effective coordination. So it provides better coordination in the organization. Now the next term is decentralization. So before getting into this, let us understand what is the difference between centralization and decentralization. So centralization is a policy when the decision making power is confined to the top level management, or in the hands of few people only. That is called centralization. It means the power to take decision is in few hands, that is centralization. But when this decision making power is dispersed orderly and systematically in all the three levels of management, then that is known as decentralization. So this decentralization, actually it is the extension of delegation. So in delegation we multiply with 2, but in decentralization we multiply with many. So when this delegation is taking delegation, we all know that when a manager passes some of his authority and responsibility to his immediate subordinate, that is delegation. So when this delegation or this passing of authority and responsibility takes on a larger scale in every level of management, it takes the shape of decentralization. So keep in mind, decentralization is the extension of delegation. Few points highlighting the importance of decentralization. First, develop initiative among subordinates. It means the people, those who are working in middle level management and lower level management, they also get the authority to take decision. They also get the power to take decision on certain issues related to their department or their job. So it develops initiative among them. It develops managerial talent for future. So when an employee working at a particular level gets the chance to take decision and carry on the responsibility, it develops that managerial talent in that employee. Quick decision making. When the organization is decentralized, now in every level of management there are people who has the authority to take decision. Every decision has not to be taken by the top level management, because middle level also has got certain authority, lower level management also has got certain authority. So they can take the decision there itself, and the decisions, that means the decisions are very quick. Relief to the top level management. It means all the decisions, that is minor and major decisions, are not to be taken by the top level management. Now some minor decisions can be taken by the middle level managers and the people working at the lower level of management. So top level management is relieved. Now they can work on framing some good plans and policies for the organization. They can work in some other areas. Facilitates growth. It means when there is decentralization policy adopted in the organization can easily expand and grow, because the decisions can be taken very quickly, and it will help in increasing the productivity, efficiency of the organization. Better control. The control is also very good, because the people working in different departments, they are also responsible for their decision making. So the top level can have better this control over the other levels of management, because here the performance of each level is being evaluated, and which results in complete control over the activities of various levels. So this is all in this particular chapter. Hope you have understood the chapter well, and to understand the chapter in much better way, I suggest you to go through the textbook also, go through the exercise part of the textbook also, go through and solve the assignment which is given in the textbook. Again I will be back with a new presentation on a new chapter. Till then, thank you, take care of yourself.